All right, community dinner, August, what is it? August 26th? Yes. And we have Gene and Craig this week. It's a double last week, which we had Craig and Craig last week. So we have Craig, Craig, and Gene. We turned 2 into 4. And, and the weather out here, it's summer, and it's the high yesterday was 69 degrees, and the high today was 70 degrees, and it was foggy all day out here in Aptos. So nothing like a winter in the summer. So we're talking about for a few weeks now. This is the last week, I promise, and the lack of people is due to just scattered events everywhere, and people are waking up. So for you watching the YouTube recording, you don't care whether it's anybody's here or not. And last week we did a studio presentation like this, and this week we'll do the same. And with Gene asking some intelligent questions, of course, no pressure. All right, off to the screenshot. Oops. So there's been this, this discussion for the last few weeks about light. And I've pulled up the article that I wanted to talk about more than anyone, and that's the melanin, MSH, melanocytes, sunlight, and light energy. So how do humans harvest sunlight? So let's start there. Melanin is, that's the pigment that makes you tan. MSH is melanocyte stimulating hormone. And the reason why that's in there is if you start looking into this, look at that. They got fungi right here. They got radiation, Chernobyl. They've got all kinds of other topics, similar articles. So MSH is what they call as a hormone that goes between cells, sort of. It's like a localized hormone, melanocyte stimulating hormone. And why? Remember the topic for tonight. If you get lost, bring yourself back to the general inquiry, which is how do humans harvest sunlight? Okay. So one part of it is the fungi that lives in us and on us and with us is harvesting the light. And we need to look at light metaphorically also. Light is yang in Chinese medicine, so it's also involving heat. It involves electricity. It involves radiation. It involves the sun. It involves and sort of what heat does. Heat rises, so there's a sort of expanding energy there. And so those are all the attributes of how humans harvest light. So how do we harvest or deal with radiation? Then there's radiation. There's non-ionizing, like a microwave. Those are called radio frequency emissions. You'll hear this word RF, radio frequency emissions. That's how they're geoengineering also. Oh, shouldn't say that word. And then there's ionizing radiation, which is like Chernobyl and Fukushima and the nuclear reactor stuff. So that's kind of weird. Ionizing radiation attracts soil fungi. So here's one of my points about this is why I teach natural law, folks. Right? And ionizing radiation, think light, attracts fungi. Now, fungi doesn't need light to live per se, but 2,000 strains of 200 species of 98 genera of fungi have been isolated around the Chernobyl power plant. What the F, folks? What the F? Some fungi actively direct their growth towards sources of radioactivity. Actively direct their growth towards sources of radioactivity. Well, that goes against everything I've been taught. Possibly attracted to the carbon skeleton of these structures. So that goes against everything I was taught. And, I saw a video about 5 years ago, maybe it was about Chernobyl and the aftermath. And they were saying within just a few years after Chernobyl, nature had mostly returned to normal, in quotes. Now, excuse me, hello, but the rumors I heard was thousands and thousands and thousands of years, desolate wasteland. That's the image that's pictured in our mind. Desolate wasteland. No. I saw the film with my own 2 eyes, and unless it was CGI, the Earth was completely back to normal within, I think it was 2, 3, 4 years, maybe 5 at most, after the Chernobyl accident. So, hey, Gene, where were you when Chernobyl happened?
year was it?
I don't remember. It was 80s, 87.
Well, I was living in San Francisco.
So you weren't really looking into it. You weren't back in Europe or anything.
No.
It would have been interesting if you were back in Europe to see, like, I heard potassium iodide got sold out, and seaweed and miso and all the classics in Eastern Europe after Chernobyl. Okay, thanks, Gene. I was seeing if maybe you were around. Okay, and then there's this MESH terms. Look at this article here. Beyond mitochondria, what might be the energy source of the cell? This is this light thing. And then, wait a minute. Related information. Angiogenesis inhibitors. Cytoplasm, energy metabolism. Melanin. Melanin and metabolism? What? Wait a minute. Melanin mitochondria? What the fuck does melanin, the skin pigment, have to do with our mitochondria and energy production? Wait a minute. Because melanin has to do with light. So they're showing us right here how humans are not necessarily getting our calories. So I'm going to show you another study here really quickly. They're called heteromorphs. And there's this word in one of these articles here that talks about, here we go. Humans are not just glucose burning biomachines, but are light harvesting hybrids. What the F? And then they have a, there it is. Autotrophs are the ones that harvest light. And you can see the autotroph in there. You've got your trees, and we'll blow that up a little bit. Your autotrophs, see, there's little trees and plants, and then heterotrophs are all your animals. So what they're saying now, basically, is that humans are a hybrid of these two. And see, chlorophyll is the plant's way of harvesting light. And the human's way of harvesting light, you'll see it through hemoglobin, which is another byproduct of chlorophyll. See, right there, you can also see where hemoglobin and chlorophyll are just about identical, folks. Just about identical. Pretty close. And then your autotrophs and heterotrophs. So I wanted to go into that and show you guys, like, what? This is pretty incredible. Like, stuff that we've just not been taught. Plant blood enables your body to capture sunlight energy. Wow. Let's go back down now. See, we're light harvesting hybrids. And if you'd like to read this article, anybody who contacts me will give them the, these are articles that are generally for members only. And so this is also, part of this is Green Med Info. So if you'd like to read this article yourself, you can go to Green Med Info. There's their first article that triggered me, melanin. And so this was the question that got me. Could the melanin found in our bodies and foods like mushrooms help mitigate increasingly dire quantities of radiation? So there's another thing about, we're harvesting light, but we want to turn radiation into light, I believe. We want to turn this, like, radiation causes mutations. So my positive reframe on this would be, why don't you mutate for the positive, right? Why don't we mutate for the positive? So that's one thing that we could talk about is, taking melanin through mushrooms and other things might help our body take this radiation in and not mutate for the negative. Melanin may provide a function analogous to energy harvesting pigments such as chlorophyll. Brain dominant hominins as we are today. See, so they're trying to reclassify our species from heterotrophic to photoheterotrophic, meaning light harvester. So there's a bunch of mysterious properties here. It's the first known semiconductor. And again, you can follow some of, this is Green Med Info's stuff. So another article that he posted was the superpowers one here. And you could just read this on your own. I'm not gonna. So one of the ways it might help us is help us actually work with radiation toxicity. And chaga, so here's a chaga seems to be, or mushrooms in general, but chaga seems to be one of the better ones, chaga mushroom. Due to a phenomenon known as the photoelectric effect, low-dose radiation like uranium-238, which are technically weak emitters of alpha radiation, can be tens of thousands more damaging to our DNA than our assessment models account for. We're bringing this up in order to qualify the aforementioned information that radiation is cumulative, folks. So even if you're only getting a little bit, it is cumulative. And so you want to start your anti-radiation light harvesting diet ASAP, basically. See, we talked about that. I'm not going to go into that so much, but there's some really great, you can pause this anywhere you want. And then practical applications. So eat your mushrooms, get your fresh green juices, and I mean fresh, and read some of this. So there's all kinds of variations. Sayer G put some great energy into putting this together. There's a Parkinson's thing here, which I found fascinating. And then, so here's the biochemistry. That's what I wanted to look at. So it's a large group of related molecules and pigmentation of the skin and photoprotection of the skin and eye. And there's different forms of it. And it's made from tyrosine, phenylalanine. So it's made from an amino acid. So what does that mean? It means you better be digesting protein well. So another thing related to this is vitiligo, the little white spots. And that's the death of these melanocytes, these melanin producing cells. They die because fungus basically eats them up. So this is a great article here. They talk about why people are tan closer to the equator or whatnot. We won't go into that. And people that are tan probably, they might need more vitamin D. See, the production of UV is lower in dark-skinned people. And then the clinical significance, what I wanted to go into was the energy source of the cell here. So a lot of the things that I teach means we've been kind of brainwashed into believing that our cells are looking at chemistry and our cells are looking at numbers and figures, and that's not what our cells are reading at all. And our mitochondria being the energy source of the cell, that may not be entirely correct. And that's what their premise is here. And light may be the energy source of the cell. And so this is their attempt through this study here, PMID and DOI, about that. So it's kind of exciting if you look at, you're harvesting light, and one of the ways we do that is through our eye. And so another relationship to this would be melanin. And I believe I have, so we don't need that right now. I was looking at something from Melanin, there it is. So as you can see right here, melanin, and this is a mitochondrial thing. So you can see the mitochondria, it's one model here, and see melanin, TYR. I can't find the TYR in here, but you can see that it's a pretty important part of a process there, melanin, right? Pretty interesting. I believe that might be all of what on the old material here. Yeah, I believe we got through this faster than I thought, because usually there's a lot of questions and whatnot. So one of the questions I would ask before closing this off would be, okay, Craig, what other practical things can I do? And so people say, do I take vitamin D? So if you want to learn more about vitamin D, there's a talk, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So please watch that. So vitamin C is a way to harvest sunlight. from fresh plants. And I have a new post out on that. And basically, if you think that a plant is growing every day, and I have a plant that grows a new gynostemma leaf every day. So the new gynostemma leaf that was produced in 24 hours is vitamin C. Vitamin C, part of it is made from the same elements that sugar is made of, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But vitamin C also has a lot of other things in with it that aren't listed, that aren't ascorbic acid, that you won't hear about outside of people like me. Then your fat soluble sunlight vitamin is A. It's not D. D is your sunlight filter. A is your sunlight vitamin. And I'm not talking about carotene. I'm talking about retinol, vitamin A. And I'm sorry, vegans, but there is no preformed vitamin A in vegan foods. Very low amounts. So you got to go to your animal fat for that, which is your butter, your egg yolks, your organ meats like liver, your muscle meats, your cheese, your milk, your dairy. I said eggs. Fish generally not high in A, but some fishes are high in D, like some of your sardines. So you get some of your Ds from fishes. Cod, like the cod liver oil is high in A. So it's an important one to realize. So where are you going to get all your A? As a vegan, you got to make sure your liver and your lymphatic system's working well, so you can convert carotenes to vitamin A. And that's where you want to make sure that you're getting enough fat with your carrot, or enough fat with your greens, or enough fat with your tomatoes, the lycopene, all these carotenoids and different color pigmented plants. That's water soluble, and you have to convert that to a fat soluble form. And we also went through on the first talk, which was 4 weeks ago, we kind of went through a little bit of everything and addressed some question and answers around how humans harvest light and energy. So we talked about the carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, nitrogen, the chosen ones premise. And so tonight, it's kind of a little shorter talk for those of you that are, kind of excited about not listening for an hour. That's probably going to be fun for you. Laugh out loud. And then next week, I'm going to start some new topics, and I'll be advertising that this week and in the newsletter. If you have a request, I already have a couple of requests coming in. And if you have a request, please throw it out there to me, because I want to talk about things that are relevant to what people want to hear, and not me just up here blabbing away about nothing. And I always can channel a good topic relevant to the situation. So we're kind of heading into fall and cold and flu season, so I might talk about immunity, but we'll see what the requests are this week. And I hope you all have a good week. And if you have questions about any of this, you can always comment. You can always contact me through the website, healthalkemy.com. You can always just reach out, and I'd be happy to honor your request for a topic that's not been talked about.